So thank you for joining us for the Performance Management and Performance Measures PMT and JustGrants training. I'm Tina Damashki, and I will be your presenter for today. I will introduce myself to you in a little bit, but I wanted to go over an overview for today's session. We plan on starting out with talking about performance management of OVC grants. Then we will focus on the performance management team and what resources we can provide to you and how we can assist you. And then we'll go into talking about reporting requirements, report types, and due dates. I know there were a lot of questions in the registration around these topics. And then we'll move on to talking about the performance measurement tool, which is the PMT, and the performance measures and the narrative questions, the semi-annual reports. And then halfway through our presentation, I will be turning it over to my co-presenter, Lisa Hartman, to talk us through the JustGrants system navigation and resources on the JustGrants side. Once we go through all the items for our presentation, I will also be providing contact information to you all so you know who to reach out to whenever you have a specific question. Okay, so let's start out by talking about performance management of your OVC awards. What is performance management to begin with? Performance management is when you use strategic planning, goals, performance indicators, evaluations, analysis, data-driven reviews, and reporting, all to improve program results and ensure effective, efficient agency operations. So talking about programs being your OVC awards and to make sure that they are working and functioning correctly over the life of the award and ensure that there's a successful outcome from your awards. The performance management cycle is something that we encourage that our grantees follow when they initially start with an award, when they first receive an award, but that doesn't mean that the only time that you can develop a cycle or follow a cycle is at the beginning of your award. Even if you are in the middle of an award performance period, you can adopt a performance management cycle. And many of you would be surprised to find that you already have one. You just maybe don't call it a performance management cycle, or you don't follow the steps outlined here in the same order that we do. But performance management for OVC grants is essential for evaluating your progress and for gauging sustainability to ensure that in the long run, even past grant activities, that your activity and your deliverables and objectives for your award can live on even without grant funding and become sustainable long-term in your community. A performance management cycle starts out with planning, and this is the first piece of your award. You're planning, whether it's through writing a proposal, identifying that this is something we want to pursue as an organization, and defining goals and objectives once you do receive an award and you are working with your grant manager. The second piece, as you see in the gray circle, is the acting piece, which is implementing the grant activity. And this is what you do for each reporting quarter. You implement activity and then you report on that activity. This is your day-to-day functions of your grant, whether you're working with your community members, you're working internally through training, technical assistance being provided to partner organizations, or whatever the case may be for your organization. And then you move into tracking, monitoring, and collecting data, and really understanding what the grant activity is looking like. What is success? Where are the opportunities where you could improve? And really reviewing the numbers as you collect information, whether it's quarterly as OVC follows, or on a bi-weekly basis, on a monthly basis, something that works for your organization, something that is something you could keep up with at your organization in terms of tracking and reporting. You then will review what you have been working on. You'll review the implemented grant activities and all the tracking and monitoring that you have done to see what's really working and what's not working. You would conduct your review while keeping your goals and objectives in mind. Are we reaching our goals and objectives? Are we working towards them? Are we deviating from them with the work that we're doing? So you review and you evaluate, and then you go back into planning again to improve your award. So at the end of the award, you are able to keep the work going and be able to sustain the efforts of award. So there's a difference between performance management and performance measurement. Performance management, as I mentioned in the past 2 slides, is your strategic planning, your goals and your deliverables, your performance indicators, and performance measures reporting and evaluation. So think about it as the big umbrella, the 30,000-foot view of managing an award, a federal award. Then you have your performance measures, which is your qualitative and quantitative data that showcases the outputs of the program or the award and the parameters against which progress towards goals is assessed. So performance measures are just a piece of the puzzle that falls into your performance management cycle or plan, or just the efforts for performance management of an award. So what we will be talking about today and other trainings that we have on our website is around performance measures, and it's really around collecting that quantitative and qualitative data and making sense of it and making sure that it is in line with the bigger picture, which is that performance management piece. One additional thing before we move on from performance management is it's important to mention that performance management is continuous. So if you're following a performance management cycle, you want it to be a continuous cycle or evolving cycle. You see here on the slide in this diagram, it flows, it keeps going, it doesn't end. You start with planning, you then act out the activities, you track them, and you monitor and evaluate what's going on with the review, and then you start planning again. If things are not working, you shift and you change. You chat with your grant manager and internally with your staff members, and you see how can we change over the life cycle of an award. As you see on the screen here, adopting a continuous performance management cycle will help organizations stay on track with deliverables and prepare to redefine or be prepared to redefine goals and objectives with the grant managers as needed throughout the life cycle of the award. So over a 3-year life cycle, following this continuous performance management cycle plan, you would do all these 4 different items at least 3 times, at least annually, evaluating what is going on with your award. If you were to only do it once over a 3-year period, you would miss a lot of opportunities and a lot of items that could have turned into successes or changes that have taken place, especially when we talk about victim services and working within our communities. So much changes over a 3-year period that is very important to keep in mind that having a cycle that is continuous will really improve the quality of the outcomes of your grant. So I wanted to move on to talk about the performance management team, and this is the team that I am on. I did say I will introduce myself a little bit further. So I am a training and technical assistance specialist. Some of you may have set up some meetings with me where we've talked about your performance measures and your awards and your grant activities. So I am here to support grantees. I work directly with the grantees, whether it's to conduct trainings and record webinars, or during one-on-one sessions and providing coaching to grantees. I do come with a background of having been OVC TVS grantee for a while, so I do have the background of completing these quarterly and semi-annual reporting requirements for OVC from your perspective. And I think that's been very helpful for me and for grantees to work together during coaching sessions and one-on-one sessions. But for our team, we have a team of analysts, and these are the individuals that review your data. I remember when I was a grantee, I really didn't understand where the numbers went. After I reported them in the PMT and provided information to my grant manager, what happened to those numbers? So our analysts, as you see here, we have a senior research associate and research associates and research assistant. They are the ones that review your data, and then they develop reports for OVC and for leadership around your data, and they respond to data requests and conduct quarterly reviews and send out emails, like some of the emails you may have received around data verification and wanting to understand more on what you are reporting on. And then we also have a help desk. We have a help desk specialist that's assigned directly to us. You could call or email, and we'll get back to you or connect you with the right individual to make sure that we answer all your questions and make sure you're ready and set for reporting months. And we also have a performance measurement systems SME, and we are very thankful for her. She basically supports the platforms if anything needs updating or any changes need to happen on the platform side, which is the performance measurement tool, or JustGrants. She is the one that communicates the grantees' needs and our needs with the developers to make sure that everybody is in sync. The reason why I wanted to introduce our team to you is because a lot of people don't know of our 7 people mighty team, but we do a lot of work and we're here to support you, and we want to hear from you and be able to help. We do a lot of coaching sessions, like I said, where you can schedule a welcome to OVC performance management and performance measures session for any new staff or any sort of refresher for a team building exercise or activity so you can all work together and really understand your measures. We also schedule one-on-one sessions for any questions that you have around the measures, whether it's a question around how do the measures fit into the work that you are doing, or how is OVC interpreting a set of questions, to really just help you navigate what the reporting requirements are like. But again, you can also send us any questions or comments or suggestions through the help desk, through calling, or by sending an email and opening a ticket, and we will always get back to you. We also have our webpage, the OVC Performance Measures webpage, and that's found on the OVC website, where we have a list of the performance measures. We have user guides and recorded webinars and trainings to help you understand the background for the performance measures, and also to understand how to report and how to utilize the system and what is needed for your organization and for your solicitation. There's also one item that I always like to highlight in this, because I know that from a grantee's point of view, it is an extremely valuable resource, and that is the Performance Measure Dictionary and Terminology resource. It will help you understand what terms OVC is using and what your grant manager is referring to, and help you really dissect what the measures might mean to your organization. So definitely take a look at that. And at the page itself, if you have any questions or any new staff members are joining that you think would be interested in learning more, or at a self-paced, in a self-paced learning environment, these recorded webinars and tools are extremely helpful. Now let's talk a little bit about the reporting requirements, and this I know was a big question from some of our participants on for today's event. So we have report types. We have 3 different reports, as you see here. We have the quarterly performance measure report. That is a report where you will collect information on a quarterly basis and around grant activity and input it into or enter it into the PMT system. This report is mostly quantitative, so it's more of a numbers report where you would be inputting numbers. You may provide a small level of information, additional comments to the numbers that you've entered, but it is quarterly. You go in and you enter your numbers in the PMT for what you have been collecting for that reporting period. So then we have the semi-annual report, which is the second type of report. This report, in addition to the quarterly data, includes narrative questions that are related to the grantee and sub-grantees activities. This report is completed in PMT as well. It's a set of 8 different questions. I will speak a little bit to those questions later, but they're basically in narrative form. So you're basically writing an essay. There's a character limit to it, but you're completing it as an essay, and it's really meant to inform your grant manager of what the quantitative data means. So you're speaking to the grant activity, to those numbers that you are inputting on a quarterly basis. The semi-annual report, as you see, it's semi-annual, so it's twice a year. It's not quarterly. It does encompass 2 quarters worth of data. This is the report that you submit in the PMT, but then you have to move it over to the JustGrants system. And Lisa, my co-presenter, will talk about that from the JustGrants side later on in this presentation. You also have your final report, and that is, a lot of you don't have to worry about a final report just yet, but for those that are closing out awards, whether it's an early closeout or through an extension and now you're closing out, you know, there's different cases, but this is the final report for your award. This is the last report that you are submitting around the performance measures, and it is something you complete in the PMT. It's once your funds have been expended and you're collecting information for the life of the award. You're supposed to submit it a quarter after the award ends. And the reason why I always like to put this on the slide here is to just keep in mind that this is something that will come at the end of the award. So the more time and effort you spend on your quarterly and semi-annual reports, the easier that final report will be, because you'll be able to pull data from the quarterly and semi-annual reports for that final one. So reporting schedule. Reporting is based on the federal fiscal year, and the federal fiscal year starts on October 1st and ends on September 30th of the following year. So we have 4 quarters. Each quarter is 3 months. So that's 3 months where you perform grant activity, and then you have to report out after 30 days from the close of that quarter. So as you see here for quarter 1, that's October to December 31st, you have 30 days. So you have until January 30 to report on your performance measures and your narrative questions. Like I said, you have quarterly reporting, so 4 quarters. You see here, there's 4 of them. But you also have semi-annual reporting, where you are reporting twice a year on the narrative questions. And as you see here, your first quarter, you have your semi-annual questions or your narrative questions. And then in your 3rd quarter, which is the April to June reporting period, you will have the 2nd set of questions. Easy way to keep track of it is in January and July, you have semi-annual reporting due. So next month, the July reporting period, not only will you be completing quantitative data, so those numbers, you'll also be responding to the narrative questions and submitting by July 30th. Since it is a semi-annual reporting period, you will need to upload that report from the PMT into JustGrants, and again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Then you've got the last reporting period at the bottom here in the last row. That is where your final report falls in, and that is due after the end date of an award. You have 120 days after the award ends to submit your last reporting period, where you will complete the performance measures, narrative questions, and some closeout questions as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where are you submitting this information that I keep referring to. And I know I said PMT, that is your performance measurement tool, and we will start with that. So the PMT, if you look here on the right side of the slide, I have 2 screenshots that I wanted to show you what it looks like when you first use the single sign-on link and enter your username, which is your email, and the password. And then you will go to the first page that will then take you to the OVC PMT. If you have an account, again, it's your username, your email is your username and a password. There's a temporary password when you first create an account for you, and then you're required to change it and update your security questions and make sure that you do not share that account or that password with anyone else. The OVC PMT, our help desk, creates your account. We create an account to the primary point of contact for the organization, and then you will receive a generated or an auto-generated email to log in for the first time. Each person must have their own account, but the point of contact or anyone in the organization with a PMT account linked to OVC awards can create an account for their colleagues. So again, we encourage you to not share accounts across organizations and have your own account for security purposes. It is very easy to create an account. You can create one for your colleagues, or you can reach out to the help desk and we can create one for you. Okay, so once you log in and you click on that OVC PMT, this is what you will see at the top. This is the navigation menu, and you have your OVC PMT homepage where you have information on reporting and general information about your award. Then you have your administration tab, and this is where you have detailed information of your federal awards and user information. This is where you can create an account for other project staff members. You also have your profile, which lists out the contact information for your organization and the point of contact, the primary point of contact. Then the most important two tabs are your Enter Data tab and your Reports tab. The Enter Data tab is where you will quarterly go in and input your data or enter your data for each quarter. And then the Reports tab is where you will review to make sure that your report has been submitted, check on the status of your report, but also this is where you will pull your completed semi-annual report from the PMT and then be able to go to JustGrants and attach it as a PDF. The Need Help tab has a link to the OVC performance measures page, and it will direct you directly to our resources, and then you've got the log out button. A few tips about the PMT system is it requires the latest browsers. It works best in Google Chrome 4.1.0 and above, or Internet Explorer and above. Wherever you see a grayed out number word, be sure to input a value, a numerical value, not a letter or anything else. The system will not accept it. Be sure to answer all the questions on the page and hit Save and Continue. All the questions have to be answered before you can submit your report. The system will not let you proceed with submitting a report if you don't answer all the questions for the different question sets. Avoid the back button without hitting Save and Continue, because that could just cause a glitch in the system. So just to be safe, be sure to skip over the back buttons. And then just so you know, if you hover over any underlined text in the question sets, it prompts an explanation for you. So these could be very helpful for new staff members that are trying to digest and understand what the question is asking of them. Okay, so I wanted to go to the Enter Data tab. So in the Enter Data tab, you are required to select your award first. And it is very important to make sure that you select the right award. If your organization has multiple active OVC awards, you want to make sure that you're selecting the right one, so you're inputting or including data for the proper award, not a different one. And trust me, that does happen. This is why it's in the slide here, and this is why I'd like to mention it. Also, make sure that you are selecting the right reporting period. A reporting period opens up, so for this upcoming reporting period in July 1st, the system will prompt the new reporting period to be open. However, if your organization has not completed the previous reporting period's requirement for reporting, you will not see the upcoming or the current reporting period. You have to complete the previous reporting period and past due reports in order to be able to open the current reporting period. So if that current reporting period is missing from your selection criteria or selection options here, you will need to make sure that the previous report has been completed and submitted. Once you select the date for the information or the reporting period you want to fill in, this is what it will look like. You will be taken to the different question sets, and you'll start with your grant activity tab, and this is not everything that will show on your screen. This is because it's a test account that I have. It shows all the question sets, but not all our solicitations have all the question sets. So some of these would be missing for your organization, depending on your solicitation type. But these are the different question sets, and as you see here, the semi-annual reporting questions, that one pops up for the January reporting period and the July reporting period. So this coming reporting period in July, you will see the semi-annual questions. There's also a review tab, which is very helpful. You could just click on the review tab at any time and see what questions you have not answered yet. They will show up with an alert next to them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the semi-annual narrative questions. We get a lot of questions through the help desk around what do we do with the semi-annual narrative questions. Just think of them as, I know they are cumbersome, but they are extremely helpful to OVC and to your grant managers, and they should also be helpful to you all. Think about performance management and being able to explain to your grant manager how you are managing your award and how you are following up with what the numbers mean in those quarterly reporting data that you're submitting to OVC. They ask you if you are on track or to talk about your goals and objectives, to really highlight where are you in your award and how far along are you, or if you're ahead or behind. Be sure to be honest and transparent. These questions are not meant to get any grantees in trouble or anything like that. They are just meant to provide information to OVC and to grant managers, and really to dig deeper than just the quantitative question or data. So they ask you if you're fiscally and programmatically on track to complete your goals and objectives, and if you need any technical assistance from OVC, if there are any delays or problems. It really is just to learn more and to understand. They speak to the previous 6 months. So again, because they're semi-annual, so that's 2 quarters of data. Each quarter is 3 months, and then 2 quarters, that's 6 months of data. But they also speak to the upcoming 6 months, where you will need to, in a way, project on what do you think will be happening in the next 6 months. No one is held accountable for what they think is going to happen if things change, as long as you can just explain why things did not go as planned or as you had anticipated for those upcoming 6 months. I also wanted to make sure I highlighted that this is the chance for grantees to brag about the incredible work that they are doing and mention successes, talk about survivor stories and victim empowerment and what your organization has done to support victims in your community. And brag to OVC about how the OVC funds have helped you get to where you are. But also talk about how will I keep up with this great work. So always be thinking about sustainability. There is a specific question in the semi-annual questions about sustainability and asks you if your organization will be able to sustain these efforts. Again, be honest and transparent, because that will help OVC see what next steps they need to take in order to ensure that these efforts are being followed through and there's a way to keep up with them. Things to consider, the biggest thing to consider is to work as a team. Ask team members, this should not be completed by one individual. There are different perspectives on your team. Different individuals are working on different deliverables for the award. So you should work as a team and ask the team about accomplishments, about opportunities, and changes in the organization that would be affecting your projects, and also how you define certain terms within your team, such as in progress and not started. If you're unsure of where to start with your semi-annual reports, start with just looking at the data. If there are any changes, any increases or decreases within the reporting period, anything that's flagged in the quantitative data can be your starting point for what you want to mention in your semi-annual report. I wanted to show you what the reports look like. There's, like I said, 8 questions. This is only 4, but you can scroll through the page and you'll get to the other 4 questions. Most of them are narrative questions, and there's a limit, a 5,000 character limit. That does include spaces, unfortunately. And the system will let you know if you are about to exceed that limit. There's also some yes and no questions, and depending on how you answer, you will need to provide an explanation in narrative form. Okay, and this is my last slide for PMT before I turn it over to my JustGrants colleague, but I wanted to make sure that I highlighted the steps for you all for the requirement of submitting your semi-annual report that you complete in PMT into JustGrants as an attachment. So you will go to the Reports tab. You will select your award number. Again, make sure it's the correct award number, especially if your organization has multiple awards. You will scroll down to the latest reporting period or the reporting period in question that you're trying to upload the semi-annual report for. And then you will click on the link labeled Semi-Annual PDF. I circled them in red here for you. So as you see, every other reporting period, so every 6 months, the semi-annual PDF will open up after you've completed your semi-annual report. You will click on that and it will generate a PDF that you can then save to your desktop or anywhere. Just make sure you can locate it, make sure you label it accordingly so it's easy to find. And then you will log into JustGrants and locate the performance report, which is PR, and it has a number attached to it in the reporting for that reporting period. And then you'll upload the PDF that you downloaded from PMT to that performance report in the attachment section, and Lisa will be able to show you what that looks like. If you have any questions, please reach out to us and we can assist you with doing that. But for now, I am going to turn it over to my JustGrants colleagues to provide an overview of the JustGrants side of the house. And Harif, if we can make Lisa the presenter so she can share her content, that would be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Tina, for inviting our team to come and speak today to all of your grantees. So I'd like to spend a little time today discussing and demonstrating how to upload your PMT report into the JustGrants performance report as an attachment. So today I also would like to provide a little bit of information about JustGrants, and towards the end of the session you'll have a chance to ask any questions you might have. I'm happy to answer any questions about JustGrants. We just want to make sure you're off to a great start with it. Now today we're going to talk I'm going to talk a little bit about roles as they relate to performance reporting, but primarily we're going to talk about how to upload attachments from PMT into JustGrants so that you can submit your performance reports appropriately with the performance measures. And then I'll talk a little bit about resources that can help you, guide you through JustGrants. So at the end of today's session, you should be able to identify all of the user roles. You should be able to upload attachments. I know Tina's already spoken about how to identify and respond to the question set and the narrative questions. I will show you how to submit the performance report in JustGrants, and then you should be able to navigate the JustGrants resources website. So there are 6 foundational roles in JustGrants created to ensure that you have the authority and the ability to carry out the specific requirements and tasks that you need to do. I'll briefly discuss each role, but I'm going to spend a little more time discussing the role that's specific to performance reporting. So each new user can have one or more than one role assigned based on the type of work that you do in JustGrants. In a large office, you may only be required to have one role, but in smaller offices, people often act as both a financial manager and a programmatic grant award administrator as well. So you can certainly double up these roles or triple or have as many assigned as you need. But the first role that's assigned is the entity administrator. And this is the individual, and there's only one entity administrator in your organization that assigns and manages users and their roles. But they also have read-only access to everything in the system. So they can open a performance report and read through it, but they can't edit it if they're only an entity administrator. It's the grant award administrator that generally handles all the programmatic requirements. And again, this does include submitting the performance reports. So the grant award administrator assigned to the award is the person that we're talking to today. That person can also initiate and submit grant award modifications, and they can initiate or process the award closeout at the end of the award. Now, there's also an alternate grant award administrator role available. Now, that role actually will allow someone to initiate and enter data into a performance report, but it does not allow them to submit it. Only the grant award administrator can submit that performance report. And then we also have the application submitter that can enter data in that application, and they certify and submit it on behalf of your entity. We have an authorized representative. This is the only role that can accept or decline an award on behalf of the entity, and it must be assigned to someone in your organization with legal authority to enter into a binding agreement with the Department of Justice, and this person must be legally authorized by your organization to agree to these award terms and conditions. And then finally, the financial manager submits federal financial reports on behalf of the organization. And again, depending on what you need to do in JustGrants, you may need one role, you may need as many as all 6. You can have as many as you need. Now, performance reports, again, are submitted on different schedules. I believe that Tina has already really talked about the schedule that we're talking about today. I have a slide that's very similar to hers. So in JustGrants, it sounds like you'll be submitting your performance reports on a semi-annual regular basis. Now, as far as uploading the PMT report, this is just a screenshot of the performance report. I will go through the demo here in a moment, but the primary section in the performance report itself in JustGrants, where you'll need to upload your PMT report here, is in this attachment section. Very straightforward process. There's a little button to upload your attachment, and that's the attachment is the PDF that Tina spoke about being created when you, when you submit your performance measures in PMT. So you'll grab that PDF file and upload it into the performance report in JustGrants, and that makes your performance measures a part of the award itself, where you can go back and view it at any time within the award. It also allows your grant manager to be able to see and access that information as well. So we'll take a moment here and we will take a little bit of a demo to show you how to upload those PMT reports. And again, if you have particular questions, we can, we can go through these here shortly. I do have a couple of questions in here that I'm looking at just to make sure that I hit all of your topics. So this image, as we start the demo, is a picture of the homepage in JustGrants, and it does display this area called My Work List. And if you're the grant award administrator, you must be assigned to a particular award in order to see the performance report listed here in your work list. Now, bear in mind that when we take our demos, we are only able to access test data. We don't use real accounts. So this may not look, you may not have this many awards in your organization assigned to you, but this is our test data. Now, in the work list, you can see the case ID here on the left, and everything that starts with PR is a performance report. These performance reports in JustGrants are automatically generated 10 days prior to the date, to the end date of the reporting period. So if the reporting period, for instance, is begins July 1st, you're going to see the performance report being generated in JustGrants 10 days prior to that. You'll then have 30 days in which to submit your performance report 30 days after the reporting period ends. Notice you can see the date due here, and you can see the urgency. And the urgency here provides color indicators so that you know which ones you want to address first. I mean, a green one, this one is telling you that you have some time to work on it. The yellow ones actually are going to be closer than 58 days. In real life, the yellow ones, I believe, start about 10 days out. And then when the little indicator turns red, it means that you have missed your deadline, and that will automatically make your performance report delinquent. It's important to address those as quickly as possible because delinquent reports may, after a period of time, lead to your funds being placed on hold, so you don't want that. So let's start this demo. And again, we're going to go ahead and take a look at a performance report in which we're going to upload the PMT report to submit that performance measure data. And it takes a moment here. I might just move this forward in the interest of time. And there we go. So once you've actually opened the report, you can see here, it says performance report at the top. There's a little rectangle in purple and white that gives you the status of this performance report. And you can also see the solicitation title, project title, and all that in the header. Now, you're going to see in the performance report section that you can have either a regular or a final report. It's important to understand that the only final report happens at the end of the award. We do not submit final reports at the end of the year, only at the end of the award, so there's only ever one final. Now, if you do decide to make this final, it should be because you're closing your award early. And if you change from regular to final by clicking that little button, you can do that. But you get a note that says, please confirm that you want to make this final, because if you do, you can't change it back to regular. You would need our technical support team to help you with that in the event that you made an error there. They'll help you, of course. But we're going to leave this to be a regular report. Now, on this, we're going to scroll down, and you'll notice that there's a comment section. And this comment section is where you can communicate something about this report to your grant manager. And so the grant manager will be able to see this. Everyone who's able to open and view a read-only version of this report will see that comment. You notice the mouse is set on the question set up at the top. You may ultimately wind up uploading your, entering your performance measure data as a question set within this performance report, but for now that is not applicable here. So in this case, again, we're going to go ahead and enter comments. And once we do, we're going to need to scroll down to the bottom of the performance report to find the Save button. And when we do, and you'll see it down here, we'll save that. And you'll notice that those comments now automatically appear in comments history. And you can see the date and the time that they were entered and who entered them and what that comment says. Now, we get to the Upload button, which is really where you're going to include your performance measure. When you click Upload, then you can go ahead and search your workstation or your shared drive for the file. And I'm just looking for any PDF file, so I think you're going to be uploading a PDF file. You can change the name here if you want to make it more specific. You can certainly do that. I'm going to make that change here. The file name that you the file as it was named on your workstation will be there. You cannot change that. Now the category is performance report. It allows you to change it, but do not. The performance report category is what indicates to JustGrants that you have actually uploaded performance measures. If you change it to something else, it will not recognize these as performance measures. Now you can upload additional documentation as well if you need into JustGrants. And when you're finished, you can cancel, which will remove that attachment and remove that comment and return you back to the work list. You can save what you have and come back later to submit. But when you click that Submit button, then it's going to go to your grant manager for review and approval. And you'll see that green banner at the top that indicates that you've done that correctly. So that's just a pretty straightforward demo of the process of uploading that PDF file. Now, if you want to go and look at previously submitted and pending, this says FFRs, but it's actually a performance report. When you open the award in JustGrants, there's a performance management section that you see here. And as you can see, every performance report that's been generated automatically by JustGrants appears here. And on the right, you can see the status. So again, as Tina mentioned, in PMT, you cannot submit a report before the one prior to it is submitted. They must be submitted in order. And so in this case, you can take a look at the reporting period, the due date, and you have to submit the oldest one first. So that's what it looks like from within the award. I also want to point out that if you need to upload award deliverables, this is not necessarily related to PMT, but if there are other additional documents that your grant manager would like you to upload, then in the performance management section at the bottom, there's a button called Add Attachment, and you can add requested documentation here within this performance management section. So I hope that this has helped you to visualize how to include your PMT report within your performance report in JustGrants. And we do have some materials I'd like to point you towards so that you can manage your tasks and your processes in JustGrants. So first of all, we have this JustGrants website. It's at justicgrants.usdoj.gov. That URL is at the very bottom of the screen. And on that website, you'll find all sorts of JustGrants information, including job aid reference guides, which will help provide you with information on step-by-step processes. We have quick reference guides, which provide you with step-by-step processes on sort of smaller tasks. We have the user roles guide if you want to find out more about what these user roles will allow you to do. We have notifications, but we have all sorts of training information and videos on our website. And I do highly encourage you to not only visit this website, but also bookmark it, because you'll probably visit it fairly often as you use JustGrants. Now, if you do need to contact our technical support desk, you can do this by sending an email to justgrants.support@usdoj.gov. And this will automatically open a support ticket for you, and one of our staff will contact you to follow up. You can also call 833-872-5175 Monday through Friday between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time on weekends or holidays. So please do contact that support email or phone number if you have any issues with JustGrants. Now, again, I'd like to talk just briefly about the JustGrants resources site. Again, justgrants.usdoj.gov, where you can find job aid reference guides, microlearning videos. We have recordings of virtual Q&A sessions, frequently asked questions, and glossary terms. And when you get there, you'll find our training page here, and you can see all of the different topics that we have for training, and I'll allow you to go ahead and explore that on your own. There's just a lot of information there. And then finally, we'd like to invite you to our virtual Q&A sessions. So on Mondays, we offer a post-award management session. This happens between 1 and 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we cover performance reporting, financial reporting, grant award modifications, and closeout. On entity management, on Tuesdays from 2 to 3 Eastern, we offer information on managing users in JustGrants. The application mechanics session on Wednesdays from 2:30 to 4 Eastern walks through the entire application process if you're in that stage of looking for funding. And then finally, if you've been awarded funding, the award acceptance class on Thursdays from 2 to 3 Eastern is a step through that process. So I'd like to invite you to those. We have the URL at the top of this page that you can use to register and sign up for any of those classes. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Tina and for her next the next portion of the session. So thank you so much for inviting us.
Lisa, thank you so much. I know all this information you provided was helpful for me, so I really hope that it was helpful for our attendees as well. Thank you. Okay, so we are nearing the end of our session, but what I wanted to make sure we did is that we provided contact information. As you see, Lisa gave you the JustGrants contact information, but I wanted to make sure that we also shared the difference between the help desk so you can really know who to contact, so you don't accidentally reach out to the wrong team. That is not a problem at all. We'll just have to direct you to JustGrants, or they'll have to direct you to us. So I just wanted to clarify which team does what. So you have the PMT Tier 4 Help Desk. That is the team that works with the performance measures on a larger scale with OVC performance management and the PMT platform itself. So you would reach out to us in my team, where the analysts are, our help desk, for any new user accounts in PMT, any errors in the platform that you're experiencing, or any specific questions about your program's performance measures, whether that's in PMT or JustGrants around the measures themselves. But then for the JustGrants team, you would reach out to them for any platform issues, any account creation, passwords, roles, onboarding for JustGrants, the platform itself, and navigation and any errors, and also for uploading those semi-annual performance reports. We are more than happy to help you, but they are the experts at navigating their system. So we highly recommend that you reach out directly to them. Again, if you were to reach out to the incorrect help desk, we would just direct you to the proper one that you should be reaching out to. So that's not an issue at all, as long as you reach out to one of us. I did want to include the information, the contact information for both of us on the screen here. As you heard, Lisa had included theirs in their slides, but this is both of them next to each other, so you could just print the slide out and have it at your desk. In case you have any questions, you would reach out directly to the right help desk. We're here to help you. We want to make sure that we answer any questions that you have and that we guide you through the reporting requirements so we can alleviate any frustrations and any stress, so you can focus on the incredible work that you do on the ground in your community. So please feel free to reach out to us. We love hearing from our grantees and working with you all. And with that, we've reached the end of our session. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. Please do join us for our future sessions. Like I said, July is a reporting month. We do host office hours for our grantees by program. So you're more than welcome to join any of those or request specific assistance. And we also have some upcoming recordings that will be posted on the website, some new resources. So please do check out our website, the OVC Performance Measures website, and the JustGrants websites as well. And thank you again. You have a great rest of your day.